evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Our major stories tonight: civil society actors in Cameroon denounce the blatant disregard for electoral laws governing campaign posters as the ruling party's candidates' posters seemingly blanket the streets, overshadowing those of other candidates, despite the law setting a maximum format of 600 times 400 centimeters for campaign posters. Many large posters that do not comply with these norms have been observed on the streets of Douala and other parts of Cameroon. Away from that, excluded presidential candidate Abdurrahman Hamadou Baba urges Cameroonians to rally behind a referendum on October 12, 2025. He stresses on the importance of a united opposition and vote monitoring platforms to ensure transparency in the upcoming October 12 presidential election. Those are top stories tonight. The news in full in a jiffy. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television for presentation. I am Immaculate Fogwe. Begin this newscast with politics. The Cameroon National Salvation Front FSNC party presidential candidate Issa Chuma Bakari drew a massive crowd in Yaoundé today, Friday, as he held a mega rally. Despite initial plans to use the Omnisport Stadium, local authorities blocked the venue, forcing the FSNC candidate to relocate to the Tinga neighborhood still found in Yaoundé. Undeterred, Issa Chuma Bakari called on his supporters to turn out massively on October 12, 2025 to vote for him as the country's next president. Away from that, still on politics, Barrister Kerem Muna declined presidential candidate and now supporter candidate Beloba Maigari has re-echoed the call for opposition coalition to chase out incumbent President Paul Biya. On his Facebook handle, he says collaboration is key to progress, thus imperative for more hands to come together to realize this shared vision. Innocent Aze has the details.
Barrister Keremuna is one of the political figures who relentlessly strive for a change of regime in Cameroon. For Cameroonians to enjoy real democracy and progress denied them for 4 decades. In a statement on his social media platforms, the legal mind once again calls on the opposition presidential candidates to unite in order to end incumbent President Paul Biya's long reign in power.
We must stop fighting against each other and turn as citizens into the army that will bring salvation to their own country. Victory is close. I implore the remaining opposition leaders, look at what we have built so far. Let us unite. Let us deliver our country from 43 years of captivity and a governance system of nightmares. God has blessed our country. Let us unite in appreciation.
Aware of the criticisms against him for withdrawing from the presidential race to enter in a coalition with Beloba Maigari, he did not hesitate to apologize.
To those of you who are deeply surprised, even hurt, by my decision to withdraw my candidacy and to join the coalition built around President Bello Buba Maigari, a coalition that now unites 3 major opposition forces, including President Ateki Seta Caxton and myself, I offer my sincere and profound apologies. I understand your disappointment.
Barrister Keremuna gives reasons for his decision.
Faced with a divided opposition of 11 candidates and a government in full panic, deploying a massive fraud machine, the people's cry was clear: unite or fail. So after careful deliberation, President Bello Buba Maigari has agreed to the fundamental pillars of our struggle: a robust and uncompromising fight against corruption, a review of the form of the state in favor of a federal system, a new inclusive plan to solve the Northwest crisis, the immediate and unconditional release of all political prisoners, and the introduction of dual nationality. These are not mere promises. There are threshold requirements development, reconciliation, and for putting you, the people, at the center of governance. This is why I have joined this growing coalition.
This repeated call comes to amplify those of Cameroonians who wish for an opposition coalition to get out of misery endured for 43 years under the current regime.
The same vein, the Douala 2 subdivisional CPDM campaign team has adopted a door-to-door campaign strategy to woo voters in favor of their candidate, incumbent President Paul Biya, in the October 12 presidential election. Speaking at a campaign launch in New Bell, CPDM party officials say that they are determined to ensure a victory for Paul Biya in the election. In the same manner, CPDM party officials in Nous, still in the Northwest region this time around, have called on the people of Nous to vote Paul Biya so that their subdivision can be raised into a full division. At their campaign launch, the team says that they will use the October 12 presidential election to thank President Paul Biya for the appointment of their sons and daughters. From Armstrong Sanda reports.
Port-à-port, meaning door-to-door in the English language, as a political campaign strategy adopted by the CPDM party officials in the Douala 2 subdivision ahead of the 12 October 2025 presidentials. Revealing this strategy at the campaign launch in New Bell, the officials say that they are determined to give 100% to Paul Biya in their area. Mayor Denise Fampo calls it a proximity campaign strategy and reveals that they have mobilized in thousands to go into the neighborhoods of the Douala 2 municipality with the message.
Une campagne de proximité.
In Nous subdivision, in the Donga-Mantun division of the Northwest region, CPDM party officials used the campaign launch to explain why Nous subdivision should vote Paul Biya on the 12th of October 2025.
We've enumerated the number of children he has appointed for us in our subdivision. The schools he has created, the hospitals he has done. He has created, he's done a lot for us.
Since the text of decentralization was signed, there have been a lot of improvements here. So we thank him for giving us the powers to do development in our place, and that is why we want that we should continue.
Nous subdivision has always been 100% for CPDM. Today we remain CPDM 100%.
Beyond what has been done, the CPDM party officials say that they are positive that another Biya mandate will respond to a long-standing wish of the people of Nous.
We are happy, first of all, and ready to vote him. We are going to vote because we know that he is a father who listens. And for sure, the head of state, when he hears that Nous is asking for a division, he will give us that. We have 47 villages in one subdivision.
Because Nous has always been CPDM. And we cannot afford this time around not to vote for him come October 12th.
From the launch, they intend to take the campaign message to the ends and corners of the 47 villages that make up the Nous subdivision. Despite being one of the oldest subdivisions across Cameroon, Nous remains disconnected from the national electricity grid with a disturbing road network.
And over to one of our major lead stories. In the streets of Douala, a noticeable imbalance in campaign visibility has sparked concerns about the fairness of the upcoming presidential election. While incumbent President Paul Biya's posters dominate the city's billboards, other candidates' images are scarce, fueling speculations about potential biases among councils and billboard operators. According to the law, all candidates should have equal access to billboard space during this period. Smajikan Gable investigates this apparent disparity and its implications for the electoral process. His report.
On major streets in Douala during this campaign period, it's impossible for one not to see the picture of the incumbent Paul Biya on major billboards, and sometimes the distance separating one from another is about 10 meters as it is in the Aqua neighborhood of Douala 1 subdivision. Are you in search for the post of other candidates? Then you need to move into neighborhoods like Nkolmondo, Douala 2 subdivision, where we saw that of O.C. Joshua, which was already partially torn, or move to the Bonadibon neighborhood, where a banner of the National Union for Democracy, NUDP party of Bello Buba Maigari, has been tied. but then that of candidate Paul Biya is more imposing than others. Last August 14, the elections body was clear about the pasting of pictures, which is strictly taken care of by municipal councils. But according to an expert, all billboard spaces are managed by councils with technical support and the intermediary of the advertising agency. The billboards, called outdoor in technical language, in large or proxy formats, are sold by the agencies with fees paid to the councils, tax deductions, and the technical cost of the managers. And again, the municipalities were expected to give an equal space for all candidates for their posters to be pasted, but unfortunately, it is not the case, as even at the event center in Aqua, it is the posters of the incumbent Paul Biya that is still dominating, which is a perfect example of the non-respect of the law guiding the use of billboards by candidates. With limited funds for opposition candidates and the late disbursement of funds for campaign, all seems to be working in the advantage of the ruling political party.
And we'll be elaborating more on this subject in our second part of the news. But before that, the National Communication Council has urged media organs to respect the principle of equality in their coverage of campaigns ahead of the October 12 presidential election in Cameroon. The chairman of the council, Joseph Chebonken Kalabupse, was speaking to the press in Yaoundé yesterday, less than a week into the campaign period, after noticing some violations of the law by some media outlets. Babila Jonathan has more on this.
Findings of the National Communication Council point to the violation of legal guidelines in matters of election campaign coverage by some media organs. The council highlights cases of unequal airspace and time given to the parties and candidates running the October 12 presidential race.
These breaches mainly concern equal access to the media for all candidates and the potential impact of published information on social cohesion. To elaborate on these two major themes, the Council has noted several critical situations across a range of traditional and online media platforms.
Some media organs have been urged to respect the law.
The candidate for the Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation, PCRN, condemned on his Facebook page a poster published by CRTV Web featuring all candidates in the presidential race, however, with a certain disparity. CRTV's attention has been called to that. The live broadcast of the CPDM rally launched in Bafoussam, West Region by television channel Canal 2 International. The Council formally calls upon Canal 2 International to ascertain that this service has been extended to all competing candidates in compliance with the principle of equality.
All 12 parties and presidential candidates are therefore expected to be given equal chances to disseminate their campaign messages and woo potential voters in the hope of emerging victorious October 12, 2025.
Babila Jonathan reporting there. Excluded presidential hopeful Abdurrahman Hamadou Baba has told Cameroonians to mobilize with the intention of a referendum on the 12th of October 2025. In a video call, the political figure says the hope for coalition is not lost and change is possible with a strict monitoring of votes and a viable opposition coalition. He also adds that he has set up a platform to monitor votes and uphold its integrity. More with Fomi Armstrong Sanda.
Abdurrahman Baba is one of the presidential hopefuls whose file was not retained by Elections Cameroon, ELECAM. Excluded from the presidential race, the political actor says he remains committed to see a political change in Cameroon come 12 October 2025. Consequently, he urges all Cameroonians to actively mobilize and go for what he calls a referendum on Sunday, October 12, 2025.
C'est de voter utile et rester stratégique.
Vote wisely and be strategic. 12 October 2025 will be a referendum day between two camps, those who want to end the 40 years of suffering and those who want an additional 7 years of a confiscated destiny.
7 ans supplémentaires de confiscation de notre avenir.
While challenging Cameroonians to vote wisely and intentionally, Abdurrahman Baba says there is still much hope for an eventual opposition coalition. He further emphasizes the need to secure and monitor the votes of Cameroonians.
Oui, le temps est court, mais
the time is limited, yet not exhausted. A coalition is still possible. You all know that nothing is finished. When it is not yet over, we can turn the tide. Let's together push these actors to rally. Yes, we can.
Il en va de notre avenir, prenons-le en main.
He says his VAR platform intends to facilitate the control and monitoring process to avoid fraud and electoral malpractices.
Nous disposons déjà d'une...
He intends to recruit some 70,000 monitoring agents to deploy across Cameroon for the proximity monitoring process. Abdurrahman Baba calls on interested Cameroonians to join the platform by subscribing to www.onet237.com.
Vérificateur actif des résultats, des VAR.
Counting on a viable opposition coalition and a strict monitoring of votes, Abdurrahman Baba believes that change is possible in Cameroon come 12 October 2025.
And even though several opinion polls have put Issa Chiroma Bakari at the top of the chart, there are still convergent and divergent views as to the opposition candidate who stands a better chance to bring about the much talked about liberation from the 4-decade-old Bia's regime. While some observers and analysts think Issa Chiroma Bakari is the best opposition candidate, others also think that uphold the opinion that Bello Buba Maigari is a favorite in the October 12 race. Babla Jonathan tells us more on this. We'll be coming to this report about the different divergent views as far as the choice of the candidate is concerned. Even though several opinion polls have put Issa Chiroma Bakari at the top of the chart, opinions there are still convergent and divergent views as to the opposition candidate who stands a better chance to bring about the much talked about liberation from the 4-decade-old Bia's regime. While some observers and analysts think Issa Chiroma Bakari is the best opposition candidate, others uphold the opinion that Bello Buba Maigari is the favorite for the October 12 polls. Babla Jonathan tells us more.
With regards to their mobilization capacity this far, analysts and opinion polls point to the fact that Issa Chiroma Bakari and Bello Buba Maigari are front runners in the forthcoming presidential race. Some civil society organizations like the Cameroon Coalition of Federalist Groups and Activists, CCFGA, project Issa Chiroma as the man of the hour.
We strongly believe that he will deliver. And what will he deliver? Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari promised us that he will respect constitutional democracy. And above all, so importantly, he is a candidate. He will bring to existence federalism in Cameroon. He's promising us the people. He will only be there to make sure this happens. The people will be the ones to decide the kind of federalism that they want, even including the federal boundaries.
CCFG also anchors its endorsement of Issa Chiroma Bakari on his promises.
He told us clearly that he is ready to work for the people, to serve Cameroonians, including the fact that he's ready to defend the votes at the polling station.
Some analysts think that based on the support that he has received from all the candidates who have joined his campaign train, Bello Buba Maigari should take the lead.
If a person like Akere Muna is endorsing such a candidate, we should take it serious. First of all, nobody doubts in this country that Batunia Akere Muna has the interests of this country at heart. He has fought for this nation, and he has proven over time that it's not the position that interests him, it is the well-being of Cameroonians. And thirdly, the fact that he is at those high levels, he can appreciate some of the things that some of us at this level will not appreciate. So, I take his integrity, his loyalty as an element that pushed me to confirm my observation that Bello Buba seems to be the best candidate.
Another side of the argument is the idea suggesting that at this point of its history, Cameroon needs a transition government.
I am not in any way saying that Issa Chiroma is not a good candidate, but I'm saying for now, we need a transition government in this country. That's what we should take note of. We need a transition government. And when you look at the profile of the two persons, Buba Bello has a more stable personality to accompany this nation in a transition. Unlike Issa Chiroma, who has proven at times not to stick on his words. You know, they say in French, l'homme c'est sa parole.
There have been calls for both candidates from the north to come together to increase the possibility of victory for an opposition candidate.
And for the highly requested come together of the opposition candidates to take place, Dr. Barrister Kamwa Limen suggests a power-sharing agreement that will yield some sort of unity government to lead the country through the transition period in view of rectifying the wrongs of the Bia's regime. Take a listen to him in this excerpt.
As the President, Buba Bello, I have as Prime Minister, Joshua Osi, and then Minister of Industry, Mines, we have Ateki Kasson. Then we have, for Minister of Education, we have Buba Hagbe. For Agriculture, we have Hila Zipang. For Territorial Administration, we have Issa Chiroma. For Defense, we have Kwemo Pierre. Then for Public Service, we have Kabra Libi. Then you have Serge Matumba Espoir for Minister of Energy and Water. You have Akere Muna, Minister of Justice. Then also just as said Prime Minister. Then Tamano Damjoya as Minister of Finance, a woman. I know she can do a lot of good to this nation. And then we have Hiram Samuel, the post of Post and Telecommunication. And Maurice Kamto, we put as External Relations. You see, if then now the other positions you look for more credible people, and then don't forget that we have people like Abba Oyono who can come in for higher education. We have resourceful persons in this country. So if the opposition can come together, have a protocol agreement on a transition government, 4 years transition government, and they put all these things in place, Cameroon will win. Cameroon will win. And just imagine a person like Akere Muna as the Minister of Justice in this country. And look at the fight he has been fighting against corruption, against embezzlement. You see that we have a straightened country.
Dr. Barrister Kamwa Limen speaking there. Away from politics, the Cameroonian government recently honored 11 soldiers with a Medal of Bravery during a ceremony at the Joint Military Region in Douala. This prestigious award recognizes acts of bravery and valor. Some other security forces were also awarded epaulets in Banga, that is in the Mungo Division. Smaji Gabriel with a roundup of this story.
It was over 10 military officers and more than 300 forces who were recognized for their outstanding duties to the state at the Camp de la Valeur, esplanade of the 2nd Joint Military Region in Douala, for their bravery while serving with the Multinational Mixed Commission of the Lake Chad Basin in their fight against Boko Haram. 11 military officers received the Medal of Bravery and Stripes. Then, more than 300 officers cutting across the different military sectors were awarded with epaulets.
I am great today. I have won another gallon today. I'm really grateful to the Hot Hierarchy for all what they have done to us.
I feel very great. It's an honor for me today. I have been promoted to the grade of Adjutant Chef Major. It was not easy, but we have worked so hard to reach here. I want to thank my Chief of Staff, my Chief of Command, the Colonel Cindy of Cindy, for the confidence that he has put again in me, that I will not betray him. I will work harder, because this new epaulet, this new gallon, calls for more responsibility and for more hard work.
The event that was void of speeches was chaired by Brigadier General Ngolo Ngombatobi Gabriel, and it ended with a military parade. In Banga, 6 officers had their ranks increased in an epaulette award ceremony that was presided by Angunu Anod, commander of the company gendarme brigade. Amongst them was an adjutant chef, adjutant and gendarme majors.
I thank God Almighty who kept me all around the years so that I should take the throne. I'm so glad. I say thank you to all my family, particularly to my husband who supported me all over the years.
I very much appreciate my hierarchy for this honor that he has given me, and that I promise with all hopes and prosperity to do what is an obligation and everything that is needed.
For those who weren't recognized, their superiors urged them to work harder, while those who were recognized, they were urged to put extra force to serve the country.
And that epaulette ceremony ends this first part of the news. Talking Point comes up next. On the line in Boya, which is a chief town of the southwest region, we have a civil society actor. He goes by the name NJI Lucas. Good evening. It's a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight.
Good evening, Immaculate. It's a pleasure being on Talking Point tonight.
NJI Lucas, how do you view the arrest of SDF militants in Mundemba? It is a locality found in the southwest region for posting campaign posters of their own party. Is this action legitimate exercise or an authority? Is this a legitimate exercise of authority or, let's say, an overreach?
The situation that happened in Dian Division, where some militants of the SDF party were arrested for posting campaign posters, which is within the law, is totally unacceptable. It should be recalled that no matter what happened, the divisional officer who actually did that arrest ought to have understood the particular period which he did the arrest, because it was not a period that was not meant for campaigns. And even if these people actually went out of the law that is in place, which of course he did not explain because he could not convince the people. I read the communique that came from Joshua Osi, the flag bearer of the SDF party. It was quite obvious that it was rather an attack of another party. And we should not forget that several members of the incumbent party, that is the CPDM party, they had earlier said certain places are not meant for certain people. So this action simply came up and certified that particular utterance that was made by some members of the CPDM party. So we can say for sure that the divisional officer would be very difficult to prove, or rather it would be very difficult for the divisional officer to prove it to Cameroonians that that was a Republican action, which of course it is not a Republican action. And we must denounce such actions, because it is not on the SDF alone that we have seen this. We have seen this on other parties that are also going in for this election. So we condemn this act, and we want the government in place to know that we are not going in for a mono election. This is a democratic election, and the opposition have the right to indeed do its campaign or carry out its campaign wherever necessary, which of course it should be in accordance of the law that we have in the Republic.
And what implications does this incident have for freedom of expression and assembly in Cameroon?
When you look at the situation, Immaculate, it is obvious that this comes back to fight against freedom of expression, freedom of assembly. Yes, of course. According to the divisional officer, he claims that his office had not received any prior information for the parties going in for this election. But I want to be very categorical here. We are not going to accept the hypocrisy of some divisional officers who think that though they are being appointed by Mr. Bia, they are working for Mr. Bia. They are being appointed by Mr. Bia in accordance with the law of the Republic. That is to say that these people are working for Cameroonians. And they have to respect the fact that they are not working for the person who appointed them. To claim that he did not receive any prior information, it is misleading. And I want to believe that Elecam, of course, is working and they have updated all of these people because we know that they accompany the process. These are people who are directly under the Ministry of Territorial Administration. And as such, as we listened to the minister, Tanganji Paul, he had said the administration is to accompany Elecam do its job. So, everyone knows. Elecam claimed that, he claims that he did not receive any. Now, this did not come to cause public disorder. We understand what is involved. Immaculate, let me tell you this, please. We understand that this is the division of the Prime Minister. And you know what that means. Should the Prime Minister's division have the list of people who voted for the party he is actually militating with? We understand these things. We know the political landscape of this country and we know exactly the rationale for certain actions. So he cannot claim as such because we know exactly what that means. So it is fight against freedom of assembly and freedom of expression during a period like this, freedom of movement, because we are within the campaign period and parties have such rights.
Do you think the denial of the administrative involvement in the arrest by the divisional officer adds to the confusion, and what does it say about accountability in this country?
Naya Immaculate, as concerning the act by the divisional officer and the administration, it is indeed telling us how much these people are confused. Of course, I am saying how much they are confused because, one, these people were arrested. They were not kidnapped. They were arrested. An arrest is carried out by a duly installed authority within a particular area. The police make arrest, the gendarme arrest, the B, provided they have the required document to carry out an arrest, may arrest. The military may arrest. But if they do not have any document, then it is an illegal arrest. And every illegal act requires that. I don't think that the militants of the SDF party who were involved in this made up these stories. So the administrative unit, the administration should not give the impression that these are made out stories. These are make-up stories. These are stories that has nothing to do with the administration. Of course, they are the only people on the ground who do that. Of course, they are the only people. These people were not indeed kidnapped by the no-state armed groups. They were arrested. Now, there is one thing we should make things clear about it. If you look around the city of Buea, if you move around the southwest region, and you certainly go around Douala, you will not see a single opposition on any of the billboard. I will say it here clear and out. I called some people whom I was giving their contact that they are in charge of billboard. And at the nick of time, at the dying hour, I was informed that their boss, who of course is one of the top business people within the Republic, who has endorsed Mr. Bia as his own candidate, refused to make available this billboard. So let us not play the ostrich here. We know exactly what is happening. We know how biased some of these administrators have resorted to.
Just to clarify on this, there's a billboard right here in Aqua, just close to a hotel around this area, where we have a picture of Pierre Kwemo of the UMS party. But then, what measures will you propose to prevent similar incidents in the future and ensure, let's say, a fair electoral process? Let everything be fair.
About measures to put to prevent this from happening in the future, Immaculate, it's as simple as this. The fact that the administrative authorities see themselves as workers of the president who appoints them is a problem of the republic. I am of the opinion that we have municipal authorities, thus there is no need for dues. I am of that opinion. And if there were to be a constitutional reform, that particular law should be scrapped off. It has no use. All the administrators appointed within the different units are not Republicans. If they want to prove me wrong, I want to see an area where administrative authorities from the division to the subdivision to the region are operating in a Republican manner, not in a partisan manner. If you point out one, I'll tell you exactly what that one has done. Go to Yaoundé 5. What did we observe? It's the same thing. What did we observe? It's the same thing. You understand? But I also want to call on them to respect the fact that if Mr. Biya is a president today, he was elected by Cameroonians. And if they are having the job they are having today, it is because Cameroonians voted a particular law that created their office. So, they owe Cameroonians the respect. They owe Cameroonians the respect. They have to give it to Cameroonians as it ought to be. We should not be begging for it, for crying out loud. This country is our country. No one should claim ownership of a country. It's our country. It's not a private property.
Now, let's come back to this subject. The dominance of the ruling party's candidates' posters in public spaces. What implications might this have for the fairness of the electoral process?
Obvious. Okay, it is obvious. Now, I want to say this, like I said it somewhere. The person in charge of the contract to post billboards should be mindful of the fact that during election period, it should not be a particular party alone. I wrote this on the social media, and I said, the person or the company in charge of this, I said, Elecam needs to go down to question these people. The territorial administration needs to do so. If they want to give a complete balance, then they should do so. If they want to tell us that, yes, we respect the laws of the republic and we want to operate in accordance with the laws, then they should do so. Because to imagine that if you move to every nooks and crannies of the southwest region, you would not see any billboard of any opposition. But you will see that of Mr. Biya flying from east to west, north to south. It is not a good practice. It's not a good practice. I think it is time for Cameroonians to grow above this. What are we afraid of? What are we afraid of? If we understand the prowess of the particular party, he talks about the septenates of hope. I think if he's talking about another 7 years of hope, then why are they afraid of giving the opportunity for others to post or to put up the face of other candidates? But all the billboards carry only that of Mr. Biya, and you may want to ask yourself questions if indeed, and it has its own effect on the people. It has its effect on the people. It has its effect on the people, and it has a negative effect as concerning our democracy. But a few who may not understand this think it is normal, it is abnormal, and it has a negative effect for that matter.
What actions should Elecam take to address the apparent non-compliance with poster size regulations?
What measure Elecam should take, Immaculate, I think it's as simple as it is. My things are always simple. You may not understand. They are simple because if we respect the laws of the Republic, we are going to have the best of every country. Okay? Cameroon ought to have been the best. we understand what we have on the ground. Now, you observe what happened to another party, Bello Buba and Eteki Sita, Caxton and Barrister Keremuna in the south, where their initial venue was cancelled. A similar thing has happened to Issa Chiroma Bakari in Yaoundé, where he earlier applied, they have refused him because they want to squeeze him to a certain area. When we say there should be a reform of the electoral laws, part of the reform of the electoral law would be things like this. During such a moment, the councils, of course, councils where the mayors are CPD mayors, they operate as what we call errand boys of the Yaoundé-led regime. Yes, because you see the way they behave, you know. But this is not helping us because it does not boost our democracy. It doesn't make us that kind of democracy Mr. Biya said in 2021 that we are an advanced democracy. It is not advanced as such. So my recommendation, Immaculate, is that Elecam should subsequently look into things like this and take it into account. And it will be good that we have to go back to reform the electoral law so it can capture everybody.
Thank you, NJI Lucas, for accepting my invitation on Talking Point tonight.
Talking to you, Immaculate, tonight from Boya. Thank you.
That's what put a cap to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Stay in the company of interesting programs on Equinoxe Television. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye for now.